NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg has said that the Ukraine still has a chance of winning this war. Britain estimates that Russia has lost a third of its invading forces to death and injury since invading on February the 24th. Putin's forces are, however, still making some advances in the east. In Mariupol, the Azovstal steelworks are the last bastion of Ukrainian resistance in the city. The Times reports this morning that more than 260 Ukrainian troops were evacuated from the site yesterday. Richard Spencer is the Times correspondent in Ukraine and joins us this morning from Dnipro. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
What do we know about these final evacuations from the plant? Is that it? Is Mariupol now about to formally fall?
Yeah, I think, they're avoiding the word surrender, but that does seem to be what's happening. There were warnings in the last few days that the defenders were running out of ammunition. And with only six, the numbers in there we were never quite clear of. And estimates range from 1,000 to 2,500, presumably the Ukrainians weren't wanting to give too much of the game away to the Russians, but it does seem there are not more than a few hundred now inside the plant. As you say, 260 have now been have basically surrendered and been taken in many cases to hospitals in the Russian-controlled area or the pro-Russian controlled area of Donetsk Oblast, and the remainder are expected, I think, to come out in the next day or two.
So by evacuations, it's an interesting point, because language is so important in this area. Evacuations, to some people, might imply they got out to safety in the rest of Ukraine. These are really now been taken by Russians. Yeah,
they've been taken by Russian buses to the Russian-controlled or the pro-Russian controlled area of eastern Ukraine. And the Ukrainians are saying the Ukrainian authorities say they want to use them for a prisoner swap. Obviously, Ukraine has a lot of Russian prisoners that they can exchange for them. These were the people most demonized by the Russian the Russian side, the Russian media and the Russian politicians. It was the Azov battalion who are described by the Russians as Nazis or neo-Nazis. There was worry about their safety. On the other hand, the chances are the Russians do want their people back, so they could be used as a prisoner exchange.
But there was this, there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, that one of the reasons why the resistance lasted so long was they felt that if they did surrender, they would be killed. They would be taken into Russia and killed.
Yeah, indeed. That's what they said they feared, and we don't know that's not going to happen. But I think it would be unlikely for that to happen. Russia, talks a very fierce and highly rhetorical game, but when the gaze of the world is on it, tends to at the highest levels, and these are decisions that we taken at the highest level. They do say they play by the rules of war.
Now, it's right and proper to commemorate the sacrifice of these people, but is there a danger that we romanticize Mariupol? Because we've made the parallel on this show a couple of times of the Thermopylae. These people were the last bastion. They stood there, they held the ground, and in doing so, they achieved a strategic success. They stopped the Russian advance. They stopped Russia heading to other parts of Ukraine. They held them up. They've achieved something. Will this go down, do you think, as one of the great resistances? Can we even tell now the value of it, the strategic value of it?
Yeah, and always hard to say. A story for another day. But what actually happened at Thermopylae is still argued about by historians. Whether the actual event that we think we know about, whether it actually happened like that or not, is very open to question. In Mariupol, it became a great symbol. And the other important point was that it held down a lot of Russian troops. A rather small number of Ukrainian defenders in the end were holding down a lot of Russian troops. And those Russian troops will be needed very much as the advance in the rest of Donetsk and Luhansk, this eastern pro-Russian area, hasn't gone as fast as the Russians hoped. As you say, they're still making a little bit of advances, but not anywhere near what their strategic objectives are. I think the symbolic importance of Mariupol, as for everything from the sort of moral dividing line of this city in the early days of the invasion was being so heavily pummeled, and we saw those extraordinary pictures damaged buildings really woke people up to the nature of this Russian assault. If you remember the theatre that was destroyed, the maternity unit of the hospital that was struck. So Mariupol itself has become a highly symbolic thing for Ukraine, and I'd say, and as I say, it did hold up Russian troops. They didn't stop the advance in any way. West, the Russians already have their land bridge to Crimea that was said to be one of their strategic objectives in that area of the battlefront. So in that sense, it's not a major victory at this particular point.
Just finally, what's the morale like in terms of people you're talking to? It feels like, we've got Finland and Sweden joining NATO. There's talk of Putin's illness. There's talk on the front page of the Times today of Putin being involved in very small-scale tactical decisions. The Russian advance, we say, is very, very slow. It doesn't seem to be working. How do you judge, just finally, Richard, morale in the people you're speaking to as of this week in Ukraine?
Yeah, so most of Ukraine is sort of pleased with the way things are going, but I there is a certain sort of creeping unease. There was this, I would say, there was this enormous pulling together at the start of the war, this incredible sense of solidarity in what had been a rather fractured political entity against the Russians, and people are very delighted at every report of a Russian setback, or that photograph from the other day of that pontoon bridge with all the Russian tanks on it that have been sunk in the river. People are very delighted about all this, but the sense that we don't know whether this is all going to go away or not, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
What's going to happen next? Are the Russians just going to be camped in this whole stretch of Ukraine down to the Crimea, and prepare for another push in a few years' time, perhaps to cut off the Black Sea coast? Or are the Russians going to be actually defeated, pushed out of eastern Ukraine, the areas that they've held effectively since 2014, and what that might do, what Russia might do next? They're not really focused on the Finland and Sweden issue, as far as I can work out. They are very focused on the level of Western support, and they are very nervous that they might be forced into a deal against their will that would open up the way for Putin to have another go in a few years' time.
Interesting stuff. Richard, great to speak to you as ever. Look after yourself.
Thanks so much.
That's Richard Spencer there, the Times correspondent in Ukraine, who joined us there from Dnipro.